There you try it. The frog will jump out of that pot of water eventually. He's not
All
gonna
right,
stay
what
there.
they did is they took away a 12-cent gas tax, they then reinstated for the first increment this new tax of 18 cents, I believe.
Yeah,
And it's going to be in total 45 cents.
yeah,
Yeah,
Over
what,
what,
that's
two-
supposed to go
over
up
two
every year like
quarters?
the toll at the turnpike.
right.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, everybody's getting rich on fracking.
Well, that's basically
And they want-
Robert Asher, who's Corbett's power broker there, working with Halliburton.
Alright,
Think-
you ready there, Ken?
I'm always ready. It's only a question of how ready.
All right,
Alright, whenever you're ready, take it
All right.
away.
All right, let's start from the top. What I'd like to do is present my standard stump speech. This is the same speech that I would give to any organization, whether it's a PTA or a forum, candidates forum somewhere, whatever it might be. And that's about 10 minutes long, a little more than that. And then what I want to do is talk about some things that are specific to us libertarians, talk about how the rest of the year is going to unfold in terms of the race. Sound good?
Yeah.
Sure. All right. So let me start at the beginning. My name is Ken Krawchuk. I'm 60 years old. I am running for the Libertarian Party nomination for governor. I was born in Philadelphia, North Philadelphia to be precise. Currently living in Abington Township, not too far away from here. My wife, my first wife, I haven't worn her out yet. Been married for 36 years now. And our kids pick on us because they say, all of our friends' parents are divorced or separated. What's wrong with you guys?
Yeah.
So we have 3 daughters and they like to pick on us. We also have 2 grandchildren so far. And I keep pushing the daughters saying, more grandkids, more grandkids. Professionally speaking, I'm an information technology professional. I run my own computer consulting firm. I formed it back in the 80s. And I also hold 3 United States patents related to database theory. So if there are any geeks in the audience, maybe afterwards we can sit down and compare notes. Also, wrote my first novel, came out last year, left it too far away, Atlas Snubbed. It's a parody sequel to Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged, where I point out a lot of the mistakes that she made in her book. I'm also calling it my platform novel because there's a lot of the ideas in there that I'm running on as candidate for governor. And I'm also a Toastmaster. I've been a Toastmaster now for 16 years. That gives me the ability to stand up here in front of you and talk without my knees knocking. So I'm a family man, a businessman, inventor, author, Toastmaster, but most importantly, I'm a libertarian. I joined the Libertarian Party back in 1993 after having spent 20 years as a Democrat. I used to think I could use your means for my ends.
10 Hail Marys.
You're right. It's important to note that I'm a libertarian because we libertarians are different from the 2 old parties. Because we are the party of principle. Every law we support, every law we oppose can all be traced back to one central idea. The idea that your life is yours, that your property is yours, that you have the God-given, inalienable right to live your life your way without interference, provided only that you respect the rights and property of others. That's it. That's what it means to be a libertarian. It's the golden rule on a political level. And the public has reacted very strongly to this message. Since our founding in 1971, we have grown to become the 3rd largest party, hands down, outnumbering all the other 3rd parties put together. We currently have, last count, about 150 elected or appointed officials nationwide, 35 in Pennsylvania, but you just told me we have 6 more here in Bucks County. I think that number has to be updated. So about a quarter of all elected libertarians in the nation are here in Pennsylvania. And again, that outnumbers all the other 3rd parties put together. I like to call us the 800-pound chihuahua of politics. So what could you expect from a libertarian governor? Obviously, you're going to find somebody who's going to respect your right to live your life your way. In terms of specific issues, as I travel the state, I hear 3 big issues. There are many, many issues, but the 3 biggest ones I hear, let me just hit each one of them briefly. The first one, of course, is taxes. Who thinks taxes are too low? Can you hear me? Hello? No, of course not. Taxes are ridiculously high. The reason why taxes are so high is because spending is high. The reason why spending is high is because they are glad handing your money around for unconstitutional programs, feel-good programs. In fact, right now, 80% of Pennsylvania budget goes toward giveaway programs. Well, when I'm governor, that trend will end. Right now, Pennsylvania's budget has been increasing at more than 3 times the rate of inflation. And it's not just now, it's been doing that for more than 50 years. Doesn't matter if a Republican is in office, doesn't matter if a Democrat is in office, doesn't matter if it's low inflation or Jimmy Carter's high inflation. 3 times the rate of inflation, Pennsylvania budget is growing. And as I said, once I'm governor, that trend will end. Because I'm promising, with the power that I get from my job description, the Pennsylvania Constitution, one of the powers I get is the power of the veto. I promise I will veto every single tax increase. Secondarily, I will also introduce a series of budgets over the 4 years of my term to gradually eliminate the personal income tax. It's time for us to roll back all this high spending, leave more money in your pockets so you can spend it on things that you think are important, not what the government thinks is important. So that's the number one issue, taxes. Oh, I forgot one other thing. Not only do I have the power of the veto, the governor also has the power of the line item veto. So that's going to be fun, not only from a savings of money point of view, but also from the unconstitutional, getting rid of unconstitutional programs. For example, that gun registry that they maintain. I'll just cross out funding for that. The Milk Marketing Board, cross out funding for that. Anything that goes outside of the Pennsylvania Constitution, I will just zero out the funding. It will take a 2/3 vote to override my veto. Will they be able to do it? Yeah, in some cases, but not in all cases. So we can be guaranteed that you elect a Libertarian governor this year, that we're going to reduce the tax burden here in Pennsylvania. The second issue I hear about is crime. More in the cities than out here in the suburbs, but still, crime is a very big issue. There was a study done by the Commonwealth Foundation, a think tank in Harrisburg, that found that 95% of the crimes are committed by only 5% of the criminals. Well, that means I've got a good tool, again, coming from my job description, the Constitution, because the governor has the power over parole. What I'm promising to do is I will eliminate parole for violent criminals. I think it's insane to let these guys out of jail, especially after we first get them in there, getting them through our convoluted criminal justice system. When I'm governor, they will serve every single day of their sentence. Now, a lot of times when I say it, people say, oh, come on, Ken, what are you going to do? You're going to expand the prison complex? It's already 11% of the Pennsylvania budget, the 3rd highest single line item in there. No. Don't have to, because there are people in prison right now who do not belong there. And the largest group of them, I'm referring to nonviolent drug offenders.
White collar people.
Yep, people who may have smoked a joint, done a line, or something like that. The last number I saw said that 59.9% of federal inmates were there for drug crimes. That's what's overcrowding our prisons, so many of these people. Well, when I'm governor, they're going to get a get out of jail free card. Another aspect of it is right now we have a lot of prison caps, and especially in Philadelphia. The overcrowding situation in prisons in Philadelphia has gotten so bad that we've reached the point where we're releasing murderers and rapists from our overcrowded prisons to make room for pot-smoking Grateful Dead fans. That's insane. And it costs, what, $35,000, $40,000 a year to keep each one of them in jail. There's just no point in doing that. And it ruins lives, costs us money. As I said, when I'm governor, that will be over. Of course, if you've done anything violent or dealt drugs to kids, you're going to stay safely in prison. And it's not just drug offenses. Suppose you forgot to have some little scrap of paper the government requires of you, say a carry permit, where you were carrying and you were not causing any trouble, you weren't robbing anybody, you were very careful with your firearm. Anybody like that, they're going to get the get out of jail free card. Generally speaking, if there's no victim, there is no crime, and those people will get a pardon. Of course, if there is a victim, they'll stay behind jail, stay behind bars. So that's my plan for crime. And the third issue, and probably the largest, is education. I have 3 ways that I can approach education, and I call them low, medium, and high. The first one is easy to do, because right now, if you look at our government schools, 95% of the kids in Pennsylvania go to the same school system, the government school system. It's a virtual monopoly. And like all monopolies, costs are high, choice is low, and the quality is not always the best. What I'd like to do to end that monopoly is to introduce competition into the schools. And I'm not talking about new charter schools or something along those lines. I would like to bring in competition based upon the opinion of somebody who's been ignored in this debate so far, the parents. Specifically, what I would like to see is that the parents can choose any government school for their children, and the money that would have gone to their local school will follow the child to the school of the parent's choice. Now note what that does. Good schools will get more funding and grow. The bad schools will get less funding and eventually have to close. And when I say good and bad, I don't mean in my opinion. I don't mean in the opinion of that unelected Board of Education in Harrisburg. I'm not talking about Common Core from outside the state. I'm talking about the person whose opinion matters the most, in the opinion of the parents, which is the best school. Now, when I say that, some people say, oh, you're going to close my neighborhood school, huh? Well, first of all, your neighborhood school is no good. It deserves to be closed. But when you think about it, the good schools getting all the funding and all the students, eventually they're going to fill up. So what they can do is they can come back and take over that failed school, use the same techniques that succeeded so well for them, and improve the local school education there as well. So you see, without spending another dime on education, we can improve the quality of education here in Pennsylvania. We don't need to throw more dollars at it. All we need to do is bring in parents to eliminate to introduce competition so the better schools get the more students. That's something we can do overnight. As I said, no increase in taxes, no change in the funding. That's my first approach. I call them low, medium, and high. That's low. Medium and high may have to do some constitutional changes, but medium, we can reduce the cost of education. I got on the web, and I went looking at schools around Abington Township, private schools. And I found that most of the schools are charging $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 a year. At the high end, you have Friends School, Germantown Academy, places like that charging about $20,000, $25,000 a year. And some of the Catholic schools charging about $2,000, $3,000 a year. Now, ignoring the exclusive schools, you average out the cost of all of those schools, private schools in the Abington area, the average cost is about $9,000 a year. If you took the Abington School District budget, divided it by the number of students they have, guess how much it costs to educate one kid in Abington?
Under 20?
Close, it's $18,000, a little over $18,000. If we privatize the schools and let the school boards, instead of running their own Taj Mahals, but rather place kids in the local school system instead, private school system, we could cut property taxes in half overnight.
What about the idea of allodial titles of real estate?
Well, whoever has the title is not the issue. And I understand what a allodial title is. You have the sovereign right to the land. But first of all, I've never seen anybody with an allodial title. I know many, many people who've tried to get one. I know people who are entitled to one based upon historical factors with their family being here in Pennsylvania from back in the 1600s. But I've never seen an allodial title succeed.
They have them in Texas and Nevada.
Mhm.
But here's the issue. Because we don't have allodial titles, who really owns the property?
The state?
No, the county. The county owns the house.
Okay, I'm the government, I guess I should
Right.
say.
The state owns your car because you don't manufacture statement of ownership. But literally, if you look at how many taxes you pay in a year, I would say half of the taxes everyone pays here is for your school board, okay? So what's really needed is to go to the tuition-based mode of going to school. Now, I would say you need a transition there where you say, all right, in 3 to 5 years, you're gonna go to allodial titles, and in the interim, you're gonna have funding done tuition-based, community supported, and fundraisers, like the Catholic school does. You know, why should it be, you know, as they say, Christie's talking about in New Jersey, that you got the, you know, the elder people that are losing their homes because they can't pay $12,000 or
right.
$20,000 a year
And you know-
to pay for a kid to go to school, and they don't have anybody going to school. Why should they be losing their house?
You're anticipating my next solution.
All right,
So I did low, which is just introduce competition. Medium, which is have the local school boards place kids in the local private schools. But then there's high, which I call the great offer. The great offer is, if you pay for your own child's education, you will never have to pay property tax again. Because, as you point out, that's where all the money is going for the schools. It's going to the school systems. Most of the tax money that you're paying is going for the schools. Now, when I bring up that, I talk to seniors, they love it for the exact reason you just pointed out there, Art, because they're not directly using that service. And in their golden years, they're just being
Gouged.
yeah, gouged, that's a good word, thank you. Now, childless couples love it because, again, they're not paying, wouldn't have to pay for a service they're not using. Couples who have their children in private schools, they love it because right now they're paying twice, once in their taxes and once to the private school. And even couples with children in the government schools, they like it too because the quality of their education is going to go up. Now, yes, I know it's expensive, like I said, $9,000 average in Abington Township. But once you paid that off, you'd be done. You may have to take out a mortgage or something like that, but there'd be an end in sight. Right now, property taxes, you're paying when you're 30, when you're 40, 50, 60, 70. It just doesn't end. But with the great offer, we'd be able to end it, and you'd be responsible for educating your own children.
It ends if you give us allodial titles, then they don't have a way to impose bonds and taxes on you.
And that is one approach. I think it'd be very difficult to establish a allodial title. Like I said, I know a lot of people who've tried it, and no one has succeeded yet. So I think the more direct approach would be just to modify the Constitution a little bit so that the Commonwealth is not required to provide education any longer.
What do you think of these bills, 1770, House Bill 1776 and 76?
That's the one that shifts the property tax to the income tax or sales tax.
Yeah.
Yep. I think it's a shell game. Because
Yeah.
what it does is it doesn't change it.
There has to be, like you're saying, reform.
That's right.
So
And what we have,
somebody, before property taxes can be eliminated for people like senior citizens and so on, there's gotta be a bill reforming it.
Mhm. That's true.
And if, you know, 1776 or 76 doesn't work, you got to get together with the state rep or senator and come up with a new one.
Mhm.
That will work.
I think a tuition-based educational system will create greater involvement of everybody and actually be looking at the bottom line. So if the parents are paying 1/3 of the cost through tuition, the community's paying 1/3, and then there's another 1/3 through other avenues, federal or whatever, that's a good way to do it. And then it has everyone involved. I mean, even if you're not involved as a parent with your student, if you're paying 1/3 of the tuition, you're gonna get real interested real fast.
Uh-huh. That'd be a good interim step.
Yeah.
And the federal, by the way, it's about 4%. At least in Abington, it's 4%. It's not a lot that comes from the federal government, except there are a lot of strings that come with it.
But as the governor, you could basically take away ownership of the cars and give everybody the manufacturer's statement of ownership, okay?
Well, I don't know that I could do it unilaterally. I think that would take a legislative change, because the
Right.
motor vehicle code exists as it does right now,
Right.
so it would require that change.
Right, so if you, say for instance, someone gets caught as a DUI, I'm not saying don't prosecute them, but because the state owns the real title of the car, they have the right to seize it and sell it,
Mm-hmm.
okay? We're all sharecroppers.
Yep. I found that out when Ted Kennedy came to town when I was in Philadelphia. They towed my car away just to clear out the neighborhood. And I said, you can't do that. And they said, oh, yes, we can.
Because they own it.
Because they own it. They can do what they want with it. All right, typically what I do at this point, I do my 3 issues: taxes, crime, education. And then I open it up to questions from the audience. And we've already gotten to that point. We're already talking to the audience. But before I open it up for more questions, what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about how the landscape is going to go, the campaign landscape for the rest of the year. And with us Libertarians, I see a 3-phase approach. First phase is what we're doing right now, looking for who we're going to support for the statewide races. Second part will be the petition drive, and the third part's the fun part, after we're on the ballot. So let me talk about each one separately. First one, I'm going around visiting all of the libertarian organizations. This has to be the, I don't know, 8th or 9th one that I've done in the last month or so since I've announced. And it's good to see because there's a lot of libertarians around the state, and they're real excited because this isn't the only place that's had 5 or 6 victories. There's a lot of new libertarians that are in office right now. But we've got to keep that momentum going. So what I'm doing right now is I'm coming here to these meetings to see if we can identify candidates. Because nothing fires up a county organization more than having candidates. And this year, all we have besides governor and lieutenant governor are state senators and state representatives. There's no school board, there's no county offices, there's no municipal offices, anything like that. It's only state, higher level state offices. So what I'll be looking for is to recruit as many state representative and state senator candidates as possible. Now, the nomination, you guys are a Class A county in terms of Libertarian Party, so you have a vote on the board, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So that means you have the right to do all the nominations here for everybody in Bucks County. So you're the ones who are going to be doing that nomination. The nomination for governor and lieutenant governor and for the unorganized counties will be held at our state party convention, which will be in Bethlehem on Saturday, February 22nd. What's that, about 6 or 7 weeks away, not too long. So at that point, we're going to pick our governor and lieutenant governor candidates. And I mentioned earlier when I first came in that there are 2 other people seeking the nomination. One of them is Jonathan Jewell from Philadelphia. Last night in Montgomery County, we had a candidates forum where he and I were both there talking. And there's also a gentleman from Philadelphia, Steve Miller, who is a comedian, and he ran on our ticket last year for the Court of Common Pleas. In fact, I hear he's the first Court of Common Pleas candidate the Pennsylvania Libertarian Party has ever had. He didn't win, but now he's seeking the nomination for governor as well. So that's what that's looking like. We'll make that decision on February 22nd. Once that happens, then the hard part comes, the petition drive. The minimum number of signatures this year, looks like it's finally settled out, 16,639. That's the minimum. Now, Tom Corbett only needs 2,000. Allison Schwartz or whoever the Democrats, Hanger, or whoever they finally settle upon, they're going to need 2,000 signatures. We libertarians, we need 16,639, even though the Pennsylvania Constitution says all elections shall be equal. I'm a plaintiff on a federal suit right now to challenge that disparity. And I was on another one a couple of years ago, in 2006, I was a plaintiff on one that went all the way to the United States Supreme Court. And they looked at it and they said, oh no. Back then it was 67,000 signatures we needed. They said 67,000, 2,000? Yeah, they're equal. Can't understand it. So we're going to keep trying till we get that overturned. March 12th is the first day we can collect signatures. August 1st is the deadline. Nice chunk of time there. But what we're doing is we're aiming to do everything on one day, primary day. In 1994, my first race was for state representative, and I got a handful of people helping me out. We spent all day at the 5 or 6 busiest polling places in Abington Township. And when the day was done, we collected over 1,000 signatures. Because as people are coming out of the polls after they voted, they feel strong, they've just exercised their franchise, and you come up and say, excuse me, can I ask you to sign a petition to get the Libertarian Party candidates on the ballot? Help democracy in your neighborhood. And in my experience, about 1/3 of the people will sign. So if you go to a polling place that has 1,000 people coming through, you're going to come away with 300 signatures at the end of the day. So like I said, if you get a handful of people, you can get on there. Number of signatures you need for state rep, about 300, 400, not too bad. State senator, maybe about 1,000, 800 and around there. What's nice is that we can stack our candidates on one petition. Governor at the top, state senator, congressman, state representative, and one signature will count for all of them. That's why I'm here looking to get as many state representative, state senate, and congressional candidates as possible, because that way, if each of them gets on the ballot, let's say each one gets about 600 signatures, state rep candidates, to get 30,000 signatures, that means we need, what's that, 50? Can't do the math that quickly in my head.
you do need about 50,000 signatures, the way they're gonna knock them
Well,
off.
300 signatures is easy to get if several people are working.
That's right.
Well, you're not collecting signatures like Democrats and Republicans do. You got a bigger period of time.
Correct. Plus, it could be any registered voter, it does not have to be a libertarian. So that makes it very easy.
Yeah. So you could get Democrat signatures, you could get Republican signatures.
Yep.
Or a big thing in Bucks County is independent or no preference.
Yep. Nonpartisan.
Which
Yeah.
which cannot vote in the primary.
They're one-third of Bucks County.
Is it that many? I don't
There's
know.
no preference, yeah.
I know in Montgomery County, it's 12% who are registered nonpartisan and 17% that are registered independent. So, what's that? That's
Well, it's more
almost the same
in
word.
Bucks County, you got more of a partisan thing in Montgomery County. Republicans, they have a gerrymandered district for state rep and state senator, and then the congressman, he gerrymandered Fitzpatrick is gerrymandered the 8th district to just include Bucks County, starting this year, I understand.
Mm-hmm. Boy, that's different. That's not very gerrymandered at all. It's just Bucks. Or
Well,
just
he's
stretch out.
running countywide, and it's the same with the county seats, the commissioner and so on. The Republicans win, because they run countywide. If they were just running in my and Brad's district, for example, for state rep, they could never win.
Mhm.
Simply because of the makeup of the district. We were just discussing that.
Yep.
Well, for the state reps and the state senators, the signatures will be verified to be in that district, I'm sure.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's one of the good.
And that's easy to do. All you need is a list of voters, and what I do is, for a candidate, I would go door to door, and at the same time, you get to meet people in your neighborhood and your district that you would never,
Meet otherwise.
you would never meet otherwise,
Right. Right.
That's the way I do it. Others like to go stand in front of the post office or whatever and collect signatures.
Mhm.
But the deal with going door to door is you have a list of names and you can verify that they are who they say they are.
Right.
Yep.
Hi, I go door to door, I say, hi, is so-and-so here? And they'll say, yeah, I'm so-and-so. And you verified who they are right there.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that they're a registered voter. So there's no, so if you do it that way, there's no dispute.
Oh, they dispute.
And verifying the signatures.
Right.
Yep.
But, I mean, they're gonna dispute, and typically,
Make
from
sure
what I've
they
seen,
fill it out properly.
what I've seen typically is you will only get 1/3 through the verification process.
Well, I have a plan for that.
Okay?
There's a couple of ways to approach it. We have the entire state voter registration database, and it's online.
Okay.
And we're part of the challenge, what,
And that's
2012?
available to any candidate.
Yep, we have that, so that's already there.
Okay.
So what we're doing is, we are pre-challenging ourselves. As the petitions are coming in, we're gonna go down ourselves before we turn it in to find out which ones are good and which ones are bad. So we're gonna have a good picture of where it is we are. If we have to resort to paid petitioners, I've already discussed this with several paid petitioners. Typically, they get paid $1 signature, maybe $2 signature in certain circumstances. Instead, what I'm doing with them, and I've already run this past them, they're good with this, is we're gonna pay them 25 cents a signature. If it comes along with the voter registration number off of that database, it's called the SURE database, State Uniform Registry of Electors, SURE. If they have the sure number for each voter, well, then they'll get $1 for that, $1 additional for that signature. So that means they can go out and get all the signatures they want, quarter. They get back home, they check it out in the database. I get an extra $1 for this, an extra $1 for that. So there's a lot of incentive for them to do that. And for each full sheet, there are also bonuses for a full sheet. I'm not sure what the sheets look like yet, so I really can't say exactly what that cost is going to be. But that's the way we're looking at it. So we're pre-challenging ourselves. If a paid petitioners do it, they get paid more. If they do the challenge for us, we're going to take our own, we're going to look them up. We already have the mechanisms in place. This came from the challenge to Gary Johnson in 2012. Not only did the Democrats and Republicans get all of their software and procedures in place for the challenges, now we have our response in place, and we're going to do it in advance. But I'm expecting trouble. Our state party has an attorney on retainer, and every couple of months he sends us a strategy memo just saying, here's what the political landscape is like. He sent us one in October that said that Corbett did a poll for himself, didn't release the results, to see what the landscape was. He found out that if there's a libertarian in the race, he loses. If there's not a libertarian in the race, he could win. So he's warning us, the attorney is, that watch out for a challenge, expected challenge. Well, we're ready for the challenge. Watch out for infiltrators, something I'm telling each of the counties too, because you can have somebody come in here and just start making a lot of trouble, making a lot of noise, and get you guys thrown out. I've seen it happen before too, not in the last couple of years, but it's happened in prior elections. So it's something you got to watch out for. It's just bad. The whole political situation surrounding getting on the ballot is bad. Not only do we need to get this year, 8.5 times as many signatures, they have intimidated us in the past. In fact, I have here, this is from 2010. We had several people running for governor, lieutenant governor, various positions. And in 2010, the Republicans and the Democrats got together and they challenged every single third-party and independent candidate. All the statewides, all up and down the line. And it was awful. We weren't ready for it. This is in 2010. Of course, we were in 2012. I have here the letter from the Republican attorney to our state chair, who was Lou Jasikov at the time, showing what kind of nonsense we have to put up with. Let me read this to you. This is extortion. Following up on our conversation earlier this evening, I do not have exact figures of what our costs will be if the signature count continues and my clients are required to complete the review and move forward with a hearing. However, a rough estimate would be $92,255 to $106,455, which would include costs such as legal fees, travel, lodging, compensable time, reviewers, support staff, process service fees, hearing preparation, lay and expert witness fees and costs, photocopies, meals, legal research, conference call expenses, to name a few. These costs are comparable to the costs awarded in recent years by the Commonwealth Court in similar nomination paper challenges, including nomination papers of Nader, and in-re nomination papers of Rogers and Romanelli, which, as you know, were assessed not only against the candidates, but against their lawyers and law firms. Please let me know if you need to discuss any further in order to discuss with your clients a withdrawal of their candidacy for governor, lieutenant governor, and United States senator. As I stated, the sooner your clients agree to withdraw, the more likely my clients will agree not to pursue recovery of all their costs incurred in pursuing this matter. Best regards, Ronald L. somebody or other, Esquire.
There's more.
This is extortion. This letter got everybody kicked off the ballot in 2010. Nobody wanted to face that kind of a fine. In 2004, Ralph Nader was kicked off the ballot. He was fined $80,000. In 2006, Carl Romanelli was kicked off. Green guy was kicked off the ballot. He was fined $80,000. 2008, they tried to kick Bob Barr, our presidential candidate, off the ballot. He succeeded because he was a former congressman. He had more resources to draw on. In 2010, We got intimidated off the ballot. 2012, we fought and we won. Tough fight. I think we were like 600 signatures over the minimum. It was really, it was close all the way down the line. We have a solution. It's called the Voters' Choice Act. Senate Bill 195. Mike Fulmer, Senator Fulmer, introduced it for us. So if you want to ask people to support another bill, not only 357 or any of the others, but also Senate Bill 195, because that will even the playing field, so we don't have to collect 8.5 times as many signatures. That's enough about the petition drive. We're aiming to do it early, starting with March 12th. We should have petitions in hand by then. It's one of the reasons why our state convention is so early this year on the 22nd. So March 12th, we'll have the petitions in hand. I'm aiming to do my big push on primary day, because as you're pointing out, you know you got the right person, they're in the right district. If you're going for state rep, you know where your state rep districts are. So it all works out evenly. And if we can get it done in one day, hallelujah. Then we can focus on actual running. Because once you file the papers, that's when the floodgates open. Now, I ran in 2002, which is where the sign is from. Actually, that's from my 1998 campaign. I ran against Tom Ridge in 98 and Ed Rendell in 2002. And as soon as you're on the ballot, the floodgates open. All of a sudden, everybody and their uncle starts calling. Hi, this is the League of Women Voters. Would you like to participate in our nationally televised debate? Well, yeah. And one after the other. It's already begun with me, by the way. Just today, I received an invitation from the Parkside Business Council in West Philadelphia. They want me to come to their gubernatorial forum. Committee of 70 in Philadelphia has already invited me to their gubernatorial forum. All these primary events that are coming up, even though we Libertarians don't have primaries, I'm already getting invited to all these things. So if you see something out there, if you see a website where they're listing governor candidates and my name's not out there, send them an email. Say, hey, you forgot one, and copy me on it. A lot of people have been doing that, and I'm seeing one after the other, people are starting to add me to them. That's how I got on the Committee of 70's website. That's how these Parkside people have found out about me, and so many other organizations. So there's something you can do, just to make sure that whoever the Libertarian Party candidate is going to be, that we're going to find out who they are. And that's the fun stuff. Now, when I mention debates, standing in front of crowds, a lot of people say, oh, I don't know if I want to do that. Well, I used to be a quiet guy. I used to hide behind my computer terminal. I'm terrified at the thought of standing up and speaking in public. There was one time I went to a local congressional open house, and I wanted to talk to my congressman. This is when I was still a Democrat. I wanted to ask him about the space program, because I'm a big fan of outer space, big proponent. And halfway through my question, I had an asthma attack, and I couldn't finish it. But now, I can address a crowd of thousands live, just as easily as I'm talking to you right now. And the way that I did that is I joined an organization called Toastmasters. Who's familiar with Toastmasters? The mission of Toastmasters is to provide a supportive environment to learn public speaking and leadership skills. I'm a product of that training. It took me about a year and a half to get over my fear of standing up in public, because we constantly practice it. There are, last number, almost 15,000 clubs around the world, almost 300,000 members worldwide. And I know for a fact that within 20 miles of where we're standing, there are about 20 or 30 clubs. So if you want to improve your public speaking skills and your leadership skills, learn how to motivate volunteers, learn how to use your hands, learn how to use props, learn how to present yourself well in public, I would highly recommend joining Toastmasters, especially if you're going to be a candidate. We Libertarians, we have the best message on the planet, liberty. But if we can't communicate it, that message is useless. So that's one of the reasons I'm here. I have 3 key reasons to be here. One of them is to find out who's going to be running. Because the more candidates we get, the more energized the party is, the easier it is going to be to get signatures. Second thing I'm here to say is tell your boss you're taking off May 20th, primary day, because you want to help me get signatures. And the third thing, join Toastmasters, because nothing else will make you present your message better than being a Toastmaster.
Yes, there is.
I'm sorry?
An MBA program.
Well, see, the thing about an MBA program is that you start it and you stop it, and it's done. It costs a lot of money, too. It's the same thing with Dale Carnegie. Pay the money, you do it, it's done. The Toastmasters is an ongoing thing. The club that I belong to, Libertarian Toastmasters, we were founded in 2000. We meet twice a month. I'm also a member of Positively Charged Toastmasters, which runs out of Pico building downtown. And we meet twice a month, both clubs. So 4 times a month, I'm standing in front of people practicing. And Toastmaster meeting, they're all the same. The first half of the meeting are people doing speeches, some prepared, some impromptu. Second half are evaluations of those speeches. So if I'm developing bad habits, if I'm not doing the best job I could, I find out about it. And one thing I like about Toastmasters is it's all done in a very positive way. So the evaluations aren't something like, Brad, that speech sucked. No. It's more like, Brad, that was a pretty effective speech, but it would have been more effective if you didn't faint in the middle of it. So it's along those lines. Toastmasters changed my life completely. From a quiet guy, look at me now. 3rd time now I'm seeking the gubernatorial nomination. And I think that covers everything that I wanted to say. So with that, let me just open it up to anything you guys want to talk about.
Plan B.
Plan B?
Corbett did an analysis for winning the governor re-election. He basically determined he needs to win Montgomery County and pretty much this area. He brought in his power broker, Robert Asher, okay? You saw the guy who brought him in, Mr. Kerr, who was the head of the Montgomery County politics, who is now indicted for raping his own employee.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of years back, I talked to State Senator Joe Connie, whose father, Walter Connie, ran the Connie restaurant, big mob boss. And I said, what are you doing about Bob Asher running Pennsylvania politics? And he says to me, Asher is a man of honor. I will not touch him. So when the son of a mob boss says Asher is a man of honor, what is he talking about? Okay. So you
Honor among thieves?
Right, so to get the point, a plan B is you need to talk to either Castor or the Fort Washington Organized Crime Strike Force to protect your butt, all right? But Dreyer died
Protect my butt from what?
from what Asher could do to you.
Well, what would you think he would do?
Well, basically, what can a man of honor do in a mob?
Are you saying he's going to physically attack me?
He probably wouldn't do it,
Okay.
but I know 3 people have died from him.
Well, as I said, we're expecting a challenge,
Right,
and we're ready for that.
right.
And I don't know that I'm that much of a threat to the powers that be. I know I'm going to do well. There's no question about that. In '98, I got 33,000 votes. I was the first Libertarian governor candidate to break the 1% barrier.
Right.
In 2002, I went from 33,000 votes to 41,000 votes. And again, this is a record for the Pennsylvania Libertarian Party for that office. With what Ron Paul has done for us over the past couple of years, and now Rand Paul,
Right.
I'm expecting to get a lot more than that. Am I going to win? I could. Because as we were talking early on, nobody votes. Typically, in a gubernatorial election in Pennsylvania, 35%, I think it was
Well,
38%.
Corbett had one Republican primary challenger who's just doing it to build up opposition to the Republican establishment from conservative, namely Tea Party people. So after the primary, you're the only real alternative for either Republicans who realize that Corbett's going to lose anyway, or people like myself who stand on principle for conservative values and the same values that the Libertarians stand for.
Yep. And I'm expecting you to get a lot of that vote. There's a second factor that comes into play
The
here.
Democrats are the opposite. Well, both Corbett and whoever the Democrat
Swartz.
nominee is a big government tax and spend.
Yep.
Okay.
Right. You could hit Swartz on the fact that she voted
What
twice
did
for
the,
the
what
balance.
did the, what happened with the Libertarian candidate down in Virginia?
Well, is my, I could address that, but I don't like to do it with the camera running.
I mean, how would it be different, from you running in Pennsylvania?
Well, let me tell
I
you.
mean, what would you do different from him?
I've already started down that path.
Yeah.
For example, once we found out that Corbett did his poll, and he's right on the edge, and with the Libertarian in the race, he's going to lose, I thought, we could do something with this. So I went to Corbett, and I said, listen, we know the situation. Tell you what, I will not run for governor of Pennsylvania if you pass our Voters' Choice Act, which levels out signature requirements. He said, let me think about that. He went away for 2 weeks. Came back. I was talking to Senator Fulmer, who's the prime sponsor of our bill. He was excited. He says, this could work.
Yeah,
2 weeks later, Corbett came back and says, nah, not gonna do it.
because he got his marching orders from the Gleason, the state committee.
Yep. So I said, fine. 2 days later, I announced I was seeking the Libertarian Party nomination. If he wants to do that, fine. So now, I'm going to the Democrats. And I'm giving the same thing. Say, tell you what, I will run if you pass the Voters' Choice Act. So, and that's in process right now.
And some of the Democrats are on the same page as you with individual issues,
Correct.
like some of the opposition or the support for or against the gas hike, the gas tax hike, was nonpartisan, meaning both Republicans and Democrats there was a percent, mainly state reps were for it or against. Almost all the state senators supported it. They're the biggest problem.
Yep.
Is the state senators.
Yep. That's because they're there for 4 years. They don't have to run for re-election as often.
Yeah.
Makes it easier for them. So we'll see how it plays out. But because the race is going to be so close between Corbett and whoever it's going to be on the Democratic side, that's going to mean, well, that's good for us Libertarians. Because if you crunch the numbers, you look at who's going to vote, who the voting age Pennsylvanians are, what the typical turnout is. If you crunch all the numbers through, it turns out that in a competitive three-way race, which this will be, all I need to do is attract the vote of 1 out of 8 voting age Pennsylvanians, and I win. 1 out of 8 is all it takes. So that's one thing to keep in mind. So the harder we push, the better off it's going to be. You're just going to have to convince people to come out to the polls. So if you're talking to a room full of people, let's say there's 8 people in the room, 7 of them laugh at you, and 1 person says, that's a good idea. That's all it's going to take.
So that's based on a 35% voter turnout and a 3-way race where it's about even.
Yes. It's really 1 in 9 it comes out closer to, but I say 1 in 8 just to be on the safe side.
I would say, based on that, if you just hit Swartz on the fact that she gave us a $17 trillion debt,
Mhm.
and Corbett basically destroyed the schools in the city of Philadelphia, plus the gas tax,
Yep.
plus given his crony, the felon Asher, all the gas contracts with Halliburton. You got so much dirt on them.
And there's more than that. You talk about literally dirt.
Right.
Sunbury in central Pennsylvania on the Susquehanna River north of Harrisburg.
Yeah.
One of his fracking buddies is piling up dirt. He's got 6 feet of new dirt on this big industrial chunk of land. And all the neighbors up there, I was up there a couple weeks ago, they're livid about this because nobody's looking into it. Is it safe? Where's this dirt coming from? But it's coming from fracking. It's excess fracking waste. Turns out it's a buddy of Corbett. And the guy in the last election gave Corbett $70,000. So now they just put up a chain link fence around it. Nobody's talking about it. Nobody says anything about it.
history.
what happens if we have a nice flood,
Yeah.
and all that's gonna come downstream?
Wasn't there a history?
You're right, he's vulnerable.
Yeah, it's history repeating itself. Wasn't it back during the days of US Steel and up in Scranton there, when they were doing coal mining, they built this big slurry there, big pile like that, and they had a heavy rain and it wiped out a whole community, thousands of people.
I'm not familiar with that, but again, it sounds like the same situation.
Yes,
But there,
and the governor lost the election after that.
let's hope. It's gonna be a fun year,
Right.
especially in light of the revelations about what happened in Virginia. Because even in 2002, Ed Rendell was helping my campaign. Some of it was simple things, like there was one League of Women Voters debate, the second one that the league held, I was barred from attending, myself and the green guy. And Ed Rendell wrote a letter personally saying, let Ken in. And Ed also did some other things that, like I said, I can't say that are on,
I could say some things.
it's on camera.
Rendell's,
Or whoever might do the same.
yeah.
Well, I'm counting on help from the Democrats. I got it before, I got it 2002, and I'm fully expecting it again this time.
Did you know Rendell was Arlen Specter's uncle?
No?
In that track over there by, in Conshohocken, right by the end of the falls, which was owned by, what they call the Cicogliani family, the Conshohocken bootleggers, which were busted up by Montgomery County around 1970. What they didn't catch was the Cicogliani paid off political figures who owned those houses. They were paid off. One was owned by Arlen Specter, another right there was Ed Rendell.
How about that?
Right. Paul Tressler was the guy who was the prosecutor who went after the Conshohocken mob, put John McTavish as mayor of Conshohocken for 10 years to keep the mob out.
You know, Art, I'm always amazed by the grasp of all the characters and the interrelationships that you show.
Why?
Most people don't keep up that much. I mean, you've got it all down in fine detail too. Good
It's
stuff.
just the experience of life of getting my teeth kicked in.
So you're gonna run for state rep or state senate?
I'll consider it,
I would hope so.
okay?
I'm trying to get Brad here to run for state rep.
You should, Brad.
He might win.
Who's your state rep?
Steve Sanderson.
Yeah.
He's running in a district now that dominates